Hello everyone, this is Metal Geek. How y'all doing? I know it's been a few weeks or so since I've posted any videos. Today I'm going to put one out. It's going to be pretty much a completely non-scripted video, though I do have multiple cameras running, so you will get different angles here and there. I'm going to be playing Zelda Breath of the Wild. I'm going to be talking about it a little bit, giving my impressions as I go along. I'm going to have kind of a camera pointing right at my TV. I'm going to have one pointing at me. I got one off to the side that will get the gamepad once in a while so I can make some insert shots. So it won't be a completely unedited video. But it's going to be pretty impromptu. Now, I do live in a fairly populated area, so if you hear trains or cars going off in the background, I do apologize. When I do my more polished videos, I try to cut that out as much as possible, getting other sounds in there, fixing that all up. But this is more of an impromptu, kind of straightforward video with less cutting. Going to be more me just talking and playing. So you're probably going to hear cars and trains sometimes and horns going off. And again, I apologize for that. But let's get to this, okay? So I'm going to be playing some Zelda today, Breath of the Wild. Now, I'm about, I want to say about 35 to 40 hours in, somewhere on that mark. I don't think the game really keeps track of how long you've been playing. But I have to some extent, and it's been about 35 to 40 hours. Now, as of right now, I've completed actually, I have completed 3 of the Divine Beast, so I have freed 3 of those. I've done, well, let me, before we go any further, just say yes, there's going to be spoilers here, guys, so if you haven't played the game as of this point, or you're very early on into the game, I will be spoiling about 35 to 40 hours worth of the game. Now, even I haven't gotten all the story elements yet, but I've gotten a decent amount. So in any case, going back, I've defeated or have freed 3 of the Divine Beasts at this point. So, here's the deal about that. The Divine Beasts are kind of like these dungeons. There's only 4 of them. And they correspond with the various inhabitants and towns that are kind of like in the game. So you got the Rito, the bird race, so to speak. And I defeated, or I have freed their Divine Beast, as well as, let's say, I've also done the Zora, and I have also done the Gerudo. So I've actually freed those Divine Beasts. I've completed quite a few of the shrines, but we'll get into that in just kind of a moment. The Divine Beasts are the dungeons of this Legend of Zelda game. There are only 4 of them, and for those of you who have played Zelda games in the past, they're usually about 7, 8, maybe 9 dungeons. Yeah, I don't think really quite that many, but there's always been at least 7 or 8 dungeons in there. In some cases, a fewer, like 6. But you're probably thinking, well, 4 isn't not a whole lot. But this game does have the shrines, and there are like hundreds of them. There's like 120 shrines total. Now, the 120 shrines that are out there kind of really make up for the fact that there aren't a lot of dungeons. Now, these shrines can be kind of like puzzle pieces, or they can be action combat kind of trials, or the trial might be just in finding the shrine itself. Like if you've reached a shrine, if it's a difficult shrine to get to, or it's very hidden, it could be like that could actually be the challenge. So once you enter the shrine, you don't have to do anything additional. You just get an item, and you kind of see the monk, and he gives you the spirit orb, and you move on. Now, spirit orbs are important in this game because they kind of will upgrade you as a player. So the spirit orbs are going to be like your heart pieces for this game. You collect 4 of them, and then you can go collect a heart piece. But spirit orbs can also be used to collect stamina meter, so to speak. You can upgrade your stamina meter by getting these orbs. You're going to get 4 of them, and if you do that, you can go to a goddess statue, and you can pray to the goddess statue, and you can choose to get the heart container, or you can choose to get a stamina meter upgrade. I'm at the point where my stamina meter, I feel, is at a fairly good spot, so I've been mainly taking heart containers at this point. I factor in I've done probably about 50 to 55 shrines at this point. Again, 120 shrines, and I've done not quite half of them yet. But there's a lot of them out there, so you can kind of like go about and do a lot of different things, and that's kind of cool about it. Now, other things I'd like to talk about this game is, of course, just the customization. Now, I'll talk a little bit about the story, but one thing that's really awesome about this game is that there are a lot of different clothing you can find, clothing sets, clothing pieces, and they're not just decorative. At times, they're going to give you bonuses like heat resistance, cold resistance, stuff like that. And if you are in an area where you just, like, for example, go into, let's say, a very cold mountainous area, you're going to need to wear something warm in order to not freeze to death. And trust me, Link will freeze to death if he doesn't get that, so to speak. So you're going to want to get the warmer clothing to do that. And there are a couple different clothings out there that will protect you from the cold, for example, but doesn't necessarily mean that all the clothing is perfect in that respect. But anyway, moving on just a little bit. The game is extremely expensive in its customization. You can get lots of different weapons. As you are playing through the game, you can get spears, you can get swords, you can get different shields, you can get axes, you can get sledgehammers, you can even swing around a stick if you need to. In fact, you're going to have to at the very beginning of the game, as tree wrench is the only thing you're going to be able to get your hands on, at least until you see the old man, and the woodcutter's axe is not far from there. Most of your enemies that you fight will drop weapons, and when they do drop the weapons, you can pick them up and use them for yourself. So you can get sticks and bows and arrows, and you can get more axes, you can get clubs. There's a lot of different things you can get. And you're going to need to use every bit of it to your advantage. So at the beginning of the game, like, if you come across like a pot lid, that's going to be your shield. It's kind of the reality of it. It's going to be your shield. You got a pot lid for a shield. You'll eventually come across some more durable weapons, so to speak. But at the beginning of the game, you're going to be pretty much utilizing everything and anything that you can get your hands on in order to just, like, really survive the game. So there is a very big survival aspect to this. And that's kind of the deal about it. I mean, your enemies aren't overly strong at the beginning of the game. Although there are some, for example, there are some kind of like scouts, like guardian scouts, and even guardians in themselves in some areas, which you may not be able to take on right off the bat. But you can also kind of, like, work your way around that. You don't have to necessarily fight them. You can get around them. Although, let's be a little honest about something. You're going to have to fight some of them sometimes. So you're going to have to be somewhat prepared. Oh yeah, this, as you can see, I am playing The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild on a tablet that is reminiscent of the Wii U and not the Switch. So yeah, guys, I didn't get a Switch. I wasn't really looking to get a Switch, at least not yet, because Breath of the Wild is the only game that I was really interested in with the launch window. But because it's on the Wii U, there's a couple things. I want to honor the system that the game was made for. This is the Wii U swan song. I don't want to deny the Wii U the kind of, like, I've had this thing for a few years now, and I don't want to deny this epic experience on the Wii U because I have a Switch. You know, again, I'm not going to spend $300 at least yet on a Switch just to get Breath of the Wild. I mean, if Breath of the Wild was only available on the Switch, then yeah, I probably would have done it. But because it's available on the Wii U, because it was developed for the Wii U, because it should have been played on the Wii U, in my opinion, I decided to get it for the Wii U. Now, don't get me wrong. If you got a Switch and you're playing it, absolutely, guys, go ahead and play it on the Switch. I'm not saying anything bad about that. But I really feel that I wanted to give the Wii U its swan song, so to speak. So I am playing it on the Wii U. Anyway, let's kind of focus on the game a little bit here. There's a lot to do in The Legend of Zelda. Hyrule is extremely expansive. You can, I think there are about 7 continents to unlock in the game, I believe. So you can kind of go ahead and you can do all kinds of different stuff. With that, you can open up these towers to unlock your map. Now, each tower that you get to will often present a different challenge, so to speak. Let me be clear what I mean by that. It's not like you can just go to the towers and climb them. Some of them are that way, but in a lot of cases you may have to go to the tower and actually get around the challenge. Like maybe there is, maybe there's some whiz robes in the area that are trying to attack you on the way up, and if you don't take the whiz robes out first, you'll get attacked all the way up. But equally, I have run into a tower that was like that, and I wasn't really prepared to take the whiz robes on, so I just kind of climbed around for a while, got to a high mountainous area. I was actually able to fly over the whiz robes. They didn't notice me come in. I landed about halfway up the tower, and I climbed up to the first kind of like landing area that you can rest at, and I completely skipped having to fight the whiz robes altogether and opened up the tower. So there are so many different things you can do. You can go just about anywhere in this game. Now the game does have boundaries. Once you get to the edge of the map, if you try to go any further, the game will tell you can't go any further. And if if it's like an area where you're flying across, eventually your paraglider will just kind of close itself up and you'll drop into the abyss. So yeah, the game is extremely expansive. You can go just about anywhere you can see, but there is an end to the map, guys. So don't expect that this game goes on forever and ever and ever. Not that I think anybody probably actually thought that, but so yeah, there really is a lot you could do in this game. Now, again, I'm about 35, 40 hours in, and I'd have to say I could easily go for another 25 to 30 hours before I complete this game. So we're looking at probably about a 60-hour experience if I kind of go from where I'm at. But if I really want to get everything, I could easily see this game going for about, I don't know, probably 90 hours, 100 hours. I think you could really drag this on if you wanted to. And the funny thing is you wouldn't really be dragging anything on, because it doesn't feel like you're dragging anything on. Everything that you do kind of feels like it actually goes somewhere. Every time I turn this game on, even if it's just to complete a shrine or two, or to do something here, to do something there, I always feel like I'm accomplishing something. And that's what I think is very important about this Zelda game, is always a sense of accomplishment. It doesn't feel like you're just wandering for the sake of wandering, or that they made Hyrule so large just to kind of give the game an artificial length. Nothing here feels artificial. Right down from crouching down and hunting animals to taking on the shrines, none of it feels like it's there just because it needs to be there, or should be there, so to speak. Or because, let me rephrase that, because they're being artificial about it. Nothing feels like it's artificial. And there's a lot of things going on where you could just step away from the story, but everything kind of amounts to something, so to speak. It's not just like if you're going off shrine hunting, you're doing it just to go, hey, I'm kind of going around and I'm just doing all these shrines for the heck of it. No, it's not really for that reason whatsoever. Shrines are what give you the upgrades to your heart containers and your stamina, and you're going to want to collect different clothing with different defenses. You're going to want to find the great fairies so you can up the defense. There's a lot of different things. Well, let me rephrase that. You're going to want to find the great fairies that they up your defense with your clothing and stuff like that. You don't want to skip stuff in this game because, well, I mean, sure, there's a few things you may want to skip, but for the most part, you're going to want to do what this game has to offer, because it actually, everything leads up to something else, if you know what I'm saying. Outside of everything that there is to do, you can also go for the story. Now, there are these memory orbs throughout the game, like little spots throughout Hyrule. I believe there are 18 total. Those memory orbs are what tell the story from the past. So basically, it tells you everything that got you to this point, what got to the point where Link was put into the Shrine of Resurrection, where he was basically put into a suspended animation. Now, the memory orbs are scattered throughout Hyrule, but there are a few of them that are just automatic. Like, for example, when you pull the Master Sword from the pedestal in the Lost Woods, you get the memory of Zelda putting the Master Sword in the Lost Woods after Link is defeated by Ganon. You could also get all the memory orbs of the characters that are associated with the Divine Beast. There are 4 characters from each tribe, the Rito, the Gerudo, the Gorons, and also the Zora, that will pilot these Divine Beasts, these gigantic mecha kind of battle vehicles, I want to say. But they're not really vehicles, they're huge, they're gigantic. If you want to put it like in the Power Rangers sense, each one of them is a Zord on its own. So basically, these characters, you get the memories of these characters when you unlock or you go to the Divine Beast. And so you can obtain these memories various ways throughout the game. And then it kind of makes up the whole story from the past that it was lost to Link at the beginning of the game. So you are uncovering Link's memories in this game as you go along. Now, the story, just to be clear, isn't just based off only these memories. There's a lot of story elements that are going on throughout the game too that are happening directly in the present. And that, for example, would be like going to the towns, like, going to Zora Domain and meeting up with people there. There's a whole storyline where there's an elderly Zora who doesn't like Link because he doesn't like Hylians very much. And he refuses to trust Link or help Link until you can prove that the princess, or the daughter, basically, of the king from 100 years ago, was in love with Link. And you have to prove to him that she legitimately cared about Link despite him being a Hylian in order for him to start trusting you. So the game actually does play on certain things like, discrimination against character, redemption for those ideas. There's a lot of different areas that this goes. I mean, there's also like one of the earliest story elements in the game is you meet up with the king. Now, a lot of people, they were like, oh, when they saw the trailer, it's like, there's the king. Or even months ago when they were showing pictures of that old man, they're like, oh, there's the king. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is the king. Let me be clear about something. He is not alive in this game. What you are seeing is his spirit form, and he kind of guides Link at the beginning. That's one of the earliest story elements. He leads you to Impa. She's the one that actually guides Link towards getting all those memories throughout the game. She lives in Kakariko, so Kakariko in this game is actually the town of the Sheikah. So the Sheikah have a whole civilization in this particular game. Most of the time you see only Impa, and it's just Impa. In this particular case, you're actually getting a whole tribe of Sheikah that are alive, which is kind of cool and kind of nice because, you don't really get the chance to see that very often. So you actually get a whole tribe of Sheikah in this game, which is kind of cool. Now, there was a lot of debate as to which timeline this game is in. Some people at this point are very convinced that it's a child timeline. The adult timeline has pretty much been ruled out in a lot of different ways. I think this game is actually still, in a lot of ways, in the Fallen Hero timeline. Again, you don't really see the Sheikah in the other timelines, and they're very prominent in this. And then, again, they have a whole town in this game. So I kind of feel like this is still in the Fallen Hero timeline, though there are some things out there. There's a bit of evidence that does suggest that the child timeline actually could be the correct timeline. One bit of evidence is Zelda actually does mention the Twilight from Twilight Princess, saying that, whether it was skyward bound or traveling across time or basically fighting against the embers of Twilight, not an exact quote, that Link has survived at this long, or at least his heritage has survived this long, and that he will continue to prosper as the hero. Again, that's not actually part of the quote that she was talking about, but again, it's not an exact quote, but a lot of people are like, well, that shows that it's in the child timeline. Whether it is or not is a whole different debate. At this time, again, let's just talk about the game a bit. I know I'm rambling a little bit as I go along. There's just a lot to process with this game, and there's a lot you want to talk about. One of the more important aspects of this is the upgrading of everything. You start off with nothing, and you have to literally nothing. You're just wearing you're wearing boxer shorts. You're wearing Hylian boxer shorts, and you have to get the clothing. The first set of clothing is like literally just right there, so it's not like it's hard to get. You just open up the chest in the Shrine of Resurrection. You get an old shirt. You get an old pair of pants, and you really don't even get much for boots. I think you get like a little pair of boots with that, and you just kind of do your thing until you get better armor, better weapons. Outside of the shrines, though, to upgrade, you also, again, want to go to the Great Fairies to upgrade your armor and clothing. You also want to go around the world and try to find the hidden Korok. There are 900 Korok to find, and each one will give you a seed if you find them. If you find them and you get the seed and you collect the seeds, you can go to, I believe his name is Hetsu, if I remember correctly. He is a Korok that will appear in a couple different places in Hyrule, and then he will eventually be in Korok Village, which is in the Lost Woods. And when you go to him and you give him the Korok seeds, which he needs to fill his maraca so he can dance, because basically he has maracas that don't have any Korok seeds. You have to go on the quest just to get the maracas for him. And without the Korok seeds, he can't shake the maracas and dance. So the more Korok seeds you get him, the more he can shake his maracas and dance, and he'll give you upgrades for various things. Basically, you start off with only a certain number of open slots for weapons, bows and arrows, and shields. And you don't have a whole lot of open slots. What the Korok seeds do is they allow you to upgrade the number of slots you have to carry the various items. So if you go to Hetsu, again, I believe that's his name. If I am getting it wrong, I'm sure somebody will correct me. If you go to him, and you offer him a Korok seed, he will upgrade your inventory. So you can get another slot for your weapons, for example. It'll cost you one Korok seed to actually get another slot. But if you want to do another slot for your weapons, then you got to give him 2 Korok seed the next time. And if you want another slot, you got to give him 3, so on and so forth. But if you go to your shields instead, again, the first upgrade is 1 Korok seed, the second is 2, the third is 3, so on and so forth. So you have to go around and you really need to get these seeds in order to open up the number of slots that you have for your inventory, because trust me, you don't want to be dropping your weapons all the time. There are times where I've had a whole load of great weapons, but then I'll get one weapon that was just a little bit better, and I had such a hard time figuring out which weapon I should drop in order to pick it up. And you don't want to get yourself into that situation that often, so you really what you want to do is you want to try to get as many open slots in your inventory as possible so you don't have to keep dropping weapons. With the Great Fairies, it's interesting because with the Great Fairies, if you go to them, they're going to ask you for rupees. You remember in various Zelda games, if you go out and you find the Great Fairies and you need to be healed, they would heal you. They would just like outright heal you. And they'd be like, "Hi, I'm a Great Fairy, how you doing?" And you'd be like, "Hi, I'm Link, heal me." And in this game, they're like, "I can't do nothing. People stopped paying me rupees and giving me donations, so now I'm weak. Go get me rupees." Yeah, they're hustling you. The Great Fairies are hustling you. But you have to basically, the first run, you have to give 100 rupees to the first fairy, and when she opens up, you can actually get upgrades to your armor. But in order to get the second Great Fairy, and there are 4 total, you then have to pay, like, I think 500 or something like that. Or actually, I think the first one's 50, then it's 100, then it's 500. Oh no, it is 100. 500. Yeah, that's what it is. It's 100 for the first one. It's 500 for the second one. 1,000 to open up the third Great Fairy. I haven't found the fourth, but I'm hearing it's 10,000 rupees to actually open that one up. But then it also means you can upgrade almost all of your armor 4 times, which is something that's huge. And there was a lot of armor in this game. You could actually find armor in chests. You could defeat enemies to get armor and shields and all that good stuff. You could buy all the armor. You could buy some armor by going to the various towns. Some of it's given to you for doing a quest, like the Zora armor was given to me by basically the King of the Zora, which was made especially for Link by his daughter 100 years ago. And that armor lets you swim up a waterfall, like a waterfall. You can swim up waterfalls with that thing. All in all, again, I haven't completed the game, guys, but I'm going to give this game a very, very solid 10 out of 10 as of this point. I have never played such an expansive Zelda game in all my life. There's so much that I just talked to you about, and there's so much more that I can talk to you about. At some point, I'll probably do a more proper review of this, but this is kind of like not the first impressions, but an ongoing impressions of the game. I have yet to find anything about this game that I just like. I really like a lot of what this game has to offer, and it's amazing. Hyrule is huge. There's so much exploration. There's so much customization. You can literally do everything and anything in the order that you want to do it in. I have not talked to one person that has done anything in the same order that I have done it in, and they have not done it in the same order as someone else that I know. So, guys, easily a 10 out of 10 game. This is the Metal Geek saying have a great one, guys, and go play The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild because it's well worth it.